One of the best parts of professional sports is trash talking, and that is a fact that can't be changed. Okay, maybe some of us wouldn't want to admit it really, but it's true. Be it the NFL, NBA, professional boxing, or even professional tennis, talking down to your rival is just a part of the show. So let's take a look at some of the most mean-spirited trash talkers in sports history, starting off with Warren Sapp. Sapp has a long and interesting history both on and off the NFL field, but his legacy's been tarnished by several strange things that have happened to him since he left in 2007. This former member from Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Oakland Raiders has been in some trouble off the field, which has made people forget that when he was at his best on the field, he was almost impossible to stop. The man was a great defensive tackle who was a key part of the Bucs' 2001 championship run. He had 96 sacks throughout his career and is best remembered as a great athlete whose speed, power, and motor mouth were only topped by his speed. But above all of that, his trash talking was almost unforgettable, especially at times when he had some great fights with players like Mike Sherman and Brett Favre. In fact, it was so bad that the league had to fine him more than once for his verbose and frequent attempts to put down his opponents. But despite all that, he's still known as one of the best trash talkers in NFL history. Next up, Conor McGregor. Mystic Mac is known for his trash talk, and he never misses a chance to insult his opponent. We don't think there was a single time when the guy didn't have anything to say. In fact, he would sometimes go too far, going at it in press conferences, weigh-ins, before fights, during fights, and even after fights. And we remember how once things got very heated before his rematch with Nate Diaz at UFC 202. Apparently, the fighter threw insults and bottles at his rival's crew, which led to a hefty $150,000 fine and some trash talk directed at the Nevada State Athletic Commission. But one thing you should know about him is that his words isn't just for show. He often uses it to get into his opponent's heads, and it often works. Before their fight, the outspoken fighter was always messing with Jose Aldo's head. McGregor knocked him out in 13 seconds, which was the fastest knockout in UFC history. Just like his fists, the Irish fighter uses his words as weapons. Moving on to Mike Tyson. The number 8 mocker on our list comes from the world of professional fighting, and he's a great one. You might also know him as Iron Mike, Kid Dynamite, and the baddest man on the planet. He's arguably the best boxer in history, and his mouth was just as dangerous as his fists. During his prime, Tyson was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He used his incredible knockout power to win the WBC, WBA, and IBF heavyweight championship belts. But even though he's had a long and successful career, he's still a controversial figure among sports fans. Whether you like him or didn't, it's clear that he was good at trash talking every time he got in the ring. Not to mention John McEnroe. Whoa, we did not see this coming. We expect fighters and other tough guys to talk trash. A tennis player, it just doesn't add up. It's a game for gentlemen. And what a gentleman this guy was, who used to be one of the best tennis players in the world. He was an amazing athlete who's consistently ranked as one of the best in the history of this sport. He won 7 Grand Slam men's singles titles and 9 Grand Slam men's doubles titles, making him one of the most accomplished and prolific men in the history of tennis. But even with all of his accomplishments, McEnroe is most often remembered for his short temper and ability to talk a lot of trash on the clay. And what's funny is that there was one player in particular that Johnny Mac liked to pick on, Ivan Lendl. In fact, one of his most famous quotes was, "I've got more talent in my pinky than Lendl has in his whole body." And you're wrong if you think it's all forgiven and forgotten now. Let's learn more about Floyd Mayweather Jr. There's no denying that Floyd Mayweather Jr. has given us some of the best taunting moments of all time. You could say that he rarely used to think before speaking, and almost no one was safe from him, and what's crazy is that he even used to argue with guys during interviews and in the ring after fights. Money Mayweather didn't mind being in the spotlight, especially when it meant taking on boxers like Shane Mosley, Manny Pacquiao, and Oscar de la Hoya. His cockiness was always on display at press conferences, weigh-ins, and, most of all, in the results of his fights. But since the guy literally had a record of 49-0, he had the power to back up whatever he said. Coming up, Draymond Green. Green, who's 6'5" and 230 pounds, is one of the best athletes in the NBA. Even though that helped him do well on the court, his ability to talk trash gives him an edge over the other players. He's often criticized for his below-the-belt actions, but he's got no problem getting in the face of anyone, whether it's a player on the other team or a referee. Even though former Spurs star Tim Duncan wasn't fazed by him, Green has hasn't found a situation where he won't talk trash. Not just this, but the Warriors' best player even got into a fight with LeBron James during the NBA Finals. This didn't help Golden State win the championship, but it did make the King nervous for a moment. Even if it doesn't always work, the player's reputation as a mocker isn't in question. In a poll of NBA coaches and players, he was voted the best trash talker in basketball. Following that, Terrell Owens. People, get your popcorn ready because the TO show is ready for some entertainment tonight. This guy, a former NFL receiver, played for the San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, Buffalo Bills, Dallas Cowboys, and Cincinnati Bengals through his 15-year career. He caused a lot of trouble with his dominant play on the field and his equally dominant trash talking, but we're not kidding when we say we had the best time when he was on our screens. He was famous for his controversial style, which included verbally insulting the cornerbacks of the other team for most of the game. Even though he was right to talk trash, we still have to call him out on the fact that he was traded more than once because of concerns about his character. This shows that it does matter how you play the game. Now for Larry Bird. At first glance, no one would probably think that Bird was as good as he was at trash talking. Even though he is 6'9", few people probably thought he could play basketball as well as he did because of his "aw shucks" accent and goofy appearance. But anyone who didn't judge him too quickly found out that he wasn't a joke. Bird's tricks are as famous as his nickname, and he took comfort in the fact that he could beat up guys with both his game and his words. He was a savage to say the least. Next, Michael Jordan. We're just gonna get right to it. The superstar never held back. He didn't care if he was making fun of his teammates in practice or making fun of an opponent during a game, and like most of the other athletes on this list, Jordan could back it all up. He had an underdog mentality that made him feel like he had to keep proving himself throughout his career. Even though MJ talked trash a lot, our favorite is still the time he met Muggsy Bogues and ended up calling the 5'3" player a effing midget. Even though it was harsh, it always worked for him. And finally, we've got Ronda Rousey. Surprisingly, this list doesn't have a lot of active athletes. But in today's world of social media, it's more important than ever for athletes to maintain a clean profile so that they can make the most money from endorsements and public appearances. Our female star who did make this list is Rowdy Rousey, who was the UFC's women bantamweight champion and one of the best athletes in the world. Not to mention, the woman's got a history of trash talking against all of her opponents and even some people who aren't fighting her, like boxing champion Floyd Mayweather, who surprisingly didn't make this list. In fact, it's amazing how she even had a history of backing up her mocking, with a super cool 12-2 record that includes 3 knockouts and 9 submissions. Talk away, lady. We won't argue with you over it. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. Which of these players did you think was the biggest trash talker? Are there any we missed? Let us know in the comments below. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.